Good morning, everybody, and welcome into the final edition of Chiefs Training Camp Live, a presentation of Community America Credit Union. My name is Matt McMullen. He's Sean Barber. It is the final day of Chiefs Training Camp, Sean. Very hard to believe. A little bit of rain this morning, but no problem at all. The guys are out here getting ready for the season, and today is about finishing strong.
Man, finishing strong and being able to weather the storm. 2020 has brought on so many different issues, so many different struggles in life, and as what we can see is we're getting back to football. One thing that everybody knows, loves, and needs in their life is some Chiefs football. So right now we got the guys warming up. I kind of feel like I need to get a little stretch going on myself. So, I mean, just looking forward to it, brother.
A great show lined up here today for you all. We will be bringing you live practice footage throughout the morning, so can't wait. If you are at work, at home, wherever you are, it will be like you are here at Arrowhead Stadium watching Chiefs training camp. And Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, he's talking to fans here that are watching practice in these earpieces. You will hear him as well, providing his commentary throughout practice, so cannot wait to hear that. But Sean, before we toss it to Mitch, I'm just curious, this has been a weird offseason, trying to get ready for this season. No OTAs, no mini camp, packing a lot of stuff into just a few short weeks here. What's impressed you most about this team preparing for the season?
Man, I think it's the mindset. Having that mindset of having your physical, your mental, and your spiritual all balanced out and being ready to go. Because, you know, as we was going through the whole COVID period, we didn't know whether we were going to have football, when it was going to start, training camp, the OTAs, everything that the players were used to having every offseason kind of got threw up in the air. And then it was time for guys to attack the season, attend, show up, be ready to go, and then do all the COVID procedures. Our team, I think, has accepted that challenge and attacked that with the same venom they're going to use to attack the season in 2020.
It's a championship mentality, right?
Always.
And speaking of championships, after practice today, do not go anywhere because we are raising a flag to celebrate our victory in Super Bowl 54, a moment that we've been waiting for 50 years, Sean. You've been a part of this community a long time, player, broadcaster, ambassador. Seeing that flag go up here today, what's that going to mean to you?
Man, the most important for me is it gives me a chance to share a moment in history with so many great guys. Having a chance to talk to Jan Stenerud, Bobby Bell, Willie Lanier, Larry Marshall, even the great late Walter White, respect him, rest in peace, sir. Having a chance to go through and talk to those guys about what it felt like to play at Arrowhead, at Municipal Stadium, at Memorial Stadium, and all their experiences that all culminate around this organization, the Chiefs organization, and Lamar Hunt and Clark Hunt. So this is going to be a culmination of a lot of emotions, a lot of hard work, perseverance, a lot of sacrifice, giving away your days and your moments to lift weights, to practice, do everything that it takes to be effective and take advantage of the other team on the football field. And our team has done it better than anyone else, and they deserve that banner that's going to be raised today.
Well, we should note that the banner is being raised on Thursday Night Football when the season begins. This is the flag, but a very, very special moment in Chiefs Kingdom. Can't wait to see that. It will be live on this show, so don't go anywhere after practice, and you will see that flag being raised here at Arrowhead. A few other elements of our show today. We will do our focus group of the day, as always, on our Chiefs Training Camp live shows. We identify a position group that we're going to break down. We're here with a former linebacker, so let's talk about linebackers here today, later in the show. And then also our 5 observations from training camp as a whole. That will be later on as well. But Sean, before we get started here and go up to Mitch, I'm just curious, about 20 years ago, you were in an Andy Reid training camp. What's your favorite Andy Reid training camp story when you were a player?
Man, that 02 season and 06 season, I mean, Andy was known across the league as having one of the toughest training camps, one of the most physical training camps in the NFL. Back in those days, it wasn't mandated and wasn't regimented as much as it is now. So the thing I remember most, and I remember it all the time because I have a T-shirt from one of the wing joints in Philadelphia that created this series of T-shirts each season that says, "I survived a Eagles training camp." and I have those shirts to this day because it's this representation of the sacrifice, the blood, sweat, and tears given on that practice field to try to make that 53. It was a goal. It was a commitment I made to myself. All those off-season OTAs, all the training, the workout, the conditioning came to that moment of making that team. And that kind of focus and concentration, each one of these guys on the field, they've been given that. and they deserve to be part of that 53. But what we have here is we're going to have to make some tough decisions. We have about 70 or 80 guys that deserve to be that 53, and so we know only the best of the best are going to make it to this 2020 roster.
It's about maximizing every single day, even the last day out here at camp. And speaking of that, enough from us. Let's toss it to Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, for some live practice coverage. All right, we are back. We will get up to Mitch Holthus here in a moment, up to the booth. But first, Sean, we're seeing the guys come out here onto the field. First of all, we'll talk about this a bit later in our 5 observations, but to have a crowd here, it's been a weird training camp where there was no fans. They can't watch these guys and cheer them on. To have that energy out here on the field, how important is that?
Man, when you're on the field, the one thing you can't recreate is energy. I mean, you're excited to be there. Obviously, it's been a long training camp. You've been going against the same guys over and over. There's some tension that builds up. It's a little bit, that anxiety starts to build. You can't wait for that opening game. But to have some fans, to be able to play to the crowd. You know, Pat Mahomes, Cheetah, the Jet, Zeus, Frank the Shark, Chris Jones. We have so many larger-than-life mentalities and personas and personalities on this team. They can't wait to be lights on, ready to go, and really get after it. So this is just a little bit of a foreshadowing of what you're going to see on that opening day on Thursday Night Football.
We just saw Chris Jones run out of the tunnel to the cheers of the crowd. These guys are absolutely loving it. I think you're absolutely right. Just having this energy, this intensity, being able to feed off this crowd. This crowd has been waiting to see these guys for 8 months. I mean, these are the Super Bowl champions, and all they want to do is cheer their guys on. So awesome that these fans can be here watching these guys go through training camp here today, wrap up camp. Going through stretches right now. You remember any important stretches that you would do before camp started? Why is this part of camp important?
Hey, man, I was always a lower body guy, so I would always make sure my legs, that's the one thing. my bread and butter was my speed. So I got to make sure from the first snap to the last snap, I could go 110 miles an hour, 110%, be ready to chase and track down these quick, fast running backs and wide receivers. So, and trying to get, I couldn't imagine what it would be like trying to chase down Pat Mahomes with his no-look pass, behind-the-back pass, left-hand pass, and still being able to stay in coverage. So what our linebackers have to do and what our defense has to do as a whole on a daily basis, trying to go against our offense with the amount of weapons and different angles they can attack you vertically, horizontally, across the field, running game, play-action pass, quick game. It's a phenomenal preparation to what's going to be a fabulous season as we try to run it back.
So we're seeing some of the guys here, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Tyreek Hill. One thing that Mitch Holthus and I talked about on our training camp live show yesterday is there are so many superstars on this team that are not satisfied with what they've accomplished so far. And I think that's so unique in the NFL, where these guys have done so much. They've won Super Bowls now. They've gotten big contracts. They've done all these things, set records, but all they want to do is be better.
They keep mentioning, it's one word that they mention, legacy. Whenever you mention that word legacy, that's a level and a standard of achieving at a high level over a prolonged period of time. It's no one season, it's no one moment, no one game that's going to make you legendary. The only way to do that is come about your work, come with that championship mindset each and every game, each and every practice, and you have to do that for an entire decade. So we look forward to this team accepting the challenge of being legendary, and we have the pieces in place, but they always have to make sure they come ready to practice with the right mindset. So we appreciate the effort. We understand these guys, hey, they dancing it up, they having a good time. They're doing what they enjoy doing. That's playing Chiefs football, enjoying, putting on a show for the fans. They're entertainers at heart, but they're football players 100%.
One thing I've always appreciated about Andy Reid in his training camps and in practice in general is he wants players to show their personality a little bit. It's serious, it's football, but also he wants guys to have fun because these guys are at their best when they're having a good time. Do you remember that back when you were in training camp with Coach Reid? He wanted you guys to show your personalities?
Hey, man, he always started it right before a game. The night before a game, he'd let everybody know, hey, I'm going to buy you a cheeseburger. Make sure you let your personality show. Win, lose, or draw, the game's going to take care of itself. But you guys got to let we brought you to be a part of this team because you have explosive, exciting, unique personalities. We become great when all those personalities mix together and form it's like Voltron. All those personalities have to come together and form Voltron. So we can't wait to see what this 2020 team actually is going to look like. And we're going to make sure that the product you see on the field is the same thing they practice each day and every day. It's an exciting brand of football. Offense, score every time. Defense, take the ball away. Special teams, be unique. Be ready to rise to the occasion. So I just can't wait for this season to kick off. And as we close camp, it's just one more step, one last thing to check off on that laundry list of things to prepare yourself for that opening day.
I'm excited for football, aren't you? I just can't wait for it actually to be here. I can't believe the season here is in 2 weeks. But for now, let's toss it to Mitch Holthus. We'll try again, see what Mitch is saying up in the booth about coverage of practice here today.
That's different than a lot of NFL clubs. So much of your stress and strain is internal, and it's the way you wake up in the morning and you say, oh, God, I got to go to camp today. It's going to be 90. No, you wake up and say, I got an opportunity to do something I haven't been able to do in 6 months. I get to be with the family that just won a world championship, and we're trying to run it back. And so I got to tell you that other than COVID, the stress and strain of this camp has been less than the stress and strain of other camps because of the makeup of the team and the culture. So that's the football part of it. The COVID part is a carryover from that situation of good culture. And these guys look at it like this: if they do what we say to do, the protocol, because they know it's working, they know only one guy has it in the league right now. If they do what we say and what the league says, they know they have an opportunity to play a game that they weren't sure they were going to be able to play 6 months ago, 4 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago. Now, listen, we're not there yet. But you saw the TV trucks out in the parking lot, right? Mm-hmm. That means it's coming. We're gonna get the opener in. What happens after that, it depends on how compliant everybody is.
We have about 5,000 fans invited into the stands today, and certainly that's another step as well. And not only the players staying safe, but we kind of all have to do it too, right? To be able to come into the stadium as the season goes on. So what types of things are you be telling fans about staying safe and healthy?
Yeah, so I think, even though we have elite athletes, not all of us are elite that are on staff, and we're following protocol. So everybody gets caught up in testing and this contact tracing that we're doing. All that they are is backups to what we do daily. And not that we're not testing daily, but I will tell the kingdom the same thing that I tell our players and I tell our staff and I tell my family. The three most important things you can do is wash your hands, wear a mask, and watch your distance. So the difference with the NFL and society is we have COVID police, which I happen to be the COVID police. And as I've said before, there's probably certain players that want to defund the COVID police because I'm in their backside all the time saying, pull your mask up, wash your hand, all that kind of stuff. But we've proven that if you do those three things, testing comes out negative. And we use the contact tracer as a way to tell these guys, hey, you're spending a little too much time with each other when you're not on the field, which is hard for this team because they love each other. But we're trying to keep our distance. But once again, I can reemphasize to the public and to the kingdom and the 5,000 great people that are here sitting in a rainstorm today, wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance, and this thing will go away. It's just that, and I've said this before to you, Mitch, 85% of the people are doing the right thing. 15% are getting those 85 infected.
Yeah. And to be out here in this condition, you talked about this team and this attitude. I've seen this in St. Joe before, Rick. Coach, and what you're saying about the attributes of this team is really a reflection of a head coach, because that's the way he is. And to have him out here even in the rain is showing the appreciation to the fans, but also getting his team ready to play in any condition. We've seen it before, and we've seen it win. We see it win a world title. I want to ask you about your staff. One of the blessings that I get is to get to know some of your staff. But your staff, your specific staff in the athletic training group might be the best of all time. What about their work and what they've done the past 5.5 months and the last 3 weeks?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you saying that, and they are a phenomenal staff. We have a great mix, and we're a microcosm of Andy Reid in terms of we all get along, we love each other, we're a family. But they've carried the workload when I've had to do COVID stuff to keep us safe. So David Glover steps up in the administrative role that I have oftentimes with just being a head athletic trainer and doing injury reports and stuff like that. And then the rest of the staff, their clinical skills are so on point that it's given me an opportunity to worry more about COVID because I know they're taking care of business because they're so good at what they do. And look no further than number 22 out here running around like a gazelle. And I give Julie Freimeyer, who took on his rehab from January on, and he's back and looking good and on target to play early in this season. So, as a leader, you got to trust, and then you got to guide a little bit. But this group's easy to guide, and this group is super easy to trust. So, David Glover, Tiffany Morton, Evan Kraft, and then Julie, who I just mentioned, they're just, they're knocking it out of the park right now, and that allows me to really worry about COVID with our facilities group and coach and Mitch Reynolds and all that crew that's doing their extra jobs. I'm not going to tell you it's not stressful, and we touched on that before. It's a lot less stressful than some of my brothers and sisters in the National Football League because we're such a button-up group, and it's all starts with Clark and Mark and Andy.
Absolutely. Just to let you know what's going on now, it's kind of the dress rehearsal before the dress rehearsal. Again, the offense is dressed in red. Quarterbacks are in yellow, obviously. And then you're seeing the defense in the white uniforms, but they're basically kind of they're walking through some of the plays they're going to be doing later in the practice. And so it's a matter of this team just continues to drill, and important to get things started before they get things started. They do this every day, Dane, and part of their discipline. But I know we are looming in on some important dates.
Yes, there are. Obviously, there are cut dates coming up. Like we said, we got a game in less than 2 weeks here at Arrowhead Stadium. So these are the final kind of dress calls for a lot of these young men out here. And also recognize, and the players have to recognize this as well, and I'm sure that Andy Reid and his staff have told these players, and I know I heard it, I woke up in cold sweats at times while being a player, you're not just interviewing for the Chiefs. You're interviewing for the other 31 teams in the NFL. So what you put on film, what you put forth on the field is not just going to possibly secure you for a position on this team. It could extend your career with other teams around the league.
And now, Dana, you have a question for Rick, too, that actually relates to that.
Well, Rick, yeah, you're watching these guys. It's at the end of the camp. What's a few takeaways regarding these players and cutting down to the roster limits specifically?
Well, first of all, the thing that you notice when you go to practice is their competitive spirit. And I touched on it before. They love the practice, and that's everybody on the roster. It starts with 15 and goes to 32 on the other side of the ball, and they get after it. I mean, I'll take Tyreek when he had his hamstring. He's begging me to practice, and I'm saying, brother, the science isn't there. And he said, but I'm watching film, and the defense is talking trash. I got to go help my guys, And I'm like, yeah, well, my first job is to protect you. So from that standpoint, this has been the most competitive camp I've been to. The second thing is, we got lulled to sleep in March, April, May. Obviously, this group didn't. They found a way to work out. They found a way to be in shape. They found a way to tune in for a couple hours a day. And if you just watch the practice, everyone who's ever seen our practices, this is pretty crisp for not having much football in the spring. So we're completing a lot of balls. Our defense is flying around. It's interesting you brought up the cuts because I would not want to be Brett Veach right now. He's going to cut some good football players and some guys that deserve to play in the National Football League because they go after their craft the right way. They take care of business. They've lifted, they've run, they've studied, they've performed. And fortunately for the Kingdom, we have a really good team. And so some guys that are really good football players are going to end up on somebody else's roster, but they earned that. And I think you'll see it. I mean, we've got a group of wideouts that other teams would take right now. We have a couple of guys there that are amazing and aren't in a true starting role, as you would think. I think our defensive line's impressive right now. At least I've watched them practice. I don't know a whole lot about football, but I know about effort and I know about athleticism, and that group's improved. So, this has been an impressive camp for me because I didn't know what to expect, and I thought they may be out of shape. I thought they may be disinterested, and it's been absolutely the opposite.
Rick, we're going to let you go now, but amazing job by you and your staff.
Yes.
You've earned every cent of what you make. And, it's a time for us to reach out and just say a gratitude to all of the health professionals in the Chiefs Kingdom. I know you work closely with the folks at the University of Kansas Health System and the other facilities around. They have been on the front lines against this coronavirus. You've often said many times it's an invisible enemy. But the work you have done, we can't sit here and compliment you enough because of the effort, stress, and then performance that you have done to protect these guys that the fans see on the field.
Well, I appreciate it. And, our work's just beginning because now we're going to interact with other clubs that we hope are doing the same thing. And from all accounts, statistically, they are. So hopefully we get a full season in and listen, we're going to have some positive tests. It's not the end of football if we get a couple positive tests. We're just trying to minimize that. And the NFL, I take my hat off to Roger Goodell and Alan Sills and Management Council, everybody who's put together these protocols and worked with the NFLPA to give us the best chance to play safely. And like you said, we're chasing an invisible enemy, monster, whatever you want to call it. But the fans, the people that are here today, and millions here in the Kingdom love football. These guys love football. I love football. And it gives us a little bit of societal relief and a little bit of hope.
All right, Matt McMullen, Sean Barber back here with you at the Chiefs Training Camp Live desk. We heard from Rick Burkholder there when we first cut to that. That's who was speaking with Mitch Holthus. Rick Burkholder, this athletic training staff here with the Chiefs, have done incredible work to make sure that we are a leading example for the league and in sports of how to do a training camp and have a football season in the middle of a pandemic. So huge props to Rick Burkholder, the entire athletic training staff. A few other things we want to get into here. So this is a 10-10-10 practice, Sean, and it's a little bit different than a padded practice. You've been through one of these before. I'm curious for some of our fans at home that don't know how these work. What is a 10-10-10 practice?
Well, the attention to detail in this practice is going to be just that, just the small details, the alignment, the assignment, the formations, the shifts and motions. You'll have coaches tell players, hey, I want your eyes to be on this, be aware of that. So it's a lot of extra coaching, a lot of extra highlight coaching points throughout the plays. But what happens is 10-10-10 means 10 plays on offense, 10 plays on defense. Then they're going to sprinkle in 1 or 2 reps of special teams, and they do that 3 times. So you're going to end up with 30 plays, and you also move the ball. So it's going to be a pre-scheduled alignment assignment, moving the ball down the field, as we do always on offense, and we try to stop them on defense. But it's just to simulate the different 1st and 10, 2nd and 15, 3rd and short, 3rd and long, 1st and 20 after a penalty. All the things that might come up gets wrapped into this 10-10-10. And, like, again, no physicalness. This is all mental reps.
So a bit of a lighter practice, but still a lot going on out there, a lot of preparation for the 2020 season. All right, it's time for our focus group of the day, brought to you by DirecTV. And today, because we have Sean, a former linebacker here, we are going to break down the Chiefs linebacker core. And Sean, this is an interesting group. We have some veterans, some youth in this group, but versatility really is what defines these guys, I think. And it all begins with Anthony Hitchens, the quarterback of this linebacking core. Led this team in tackles last year. I thought he looked a lot more comfortable last season. It was his first year in Steve Spagnuolo's scheme. Looked a lot more comfortable, wasn't thinking too much, just reacting. And now his second year in Steve's scheme. Looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, definitely taking it to the next level. Anthony Hitchens is a downhill attacking style linebacker. And that exactly when you talk about the axe man for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeremiah Trotter, you talk about some of the great middle linebackers that Spags has worked with over his career, that's exactly what you need at that Mike position. A C-gap to C-gap, downhill. He cuts the angles out, but he's an intense, intimidating force between tackle to tackle. And Anthony Hitchens does a great job. He knows the entire defense. He's able to make the adjustments needed on the front. But what he is leadership ability. He's the quarterback of our defensive front, and he controls the run game and gap control throughout the defense.
We'll go from one former Dallas Cowboy to another one, and Damian Wilson joined this team last season, 715 snaps. That was 5th on the defense, and it was the most snaps of his career as well by far. Second on this team in tackles, really physical player, can play really anywhere in that linebacking core for you. What do you like about Damian Wilson going into year 2?
Man, Damian Wilson, like a jack of all trades, the one thing he brings is he is so productive. Every snap, he's getting a pressure, a hand on the ball. I still remember it. Every time I think about Damian Wilson, the one thing I think about is when he stripped Lamar Jackson. That was a play-turning event in that game, but it was something that not every player can do. Not every player knows how to and when to go for the ball versus securing the tackle, and he does that at a high level. Great hands, can get his hands on the ball, but he has a playmaker's mentality, and he makes something happen with every play he has a chance to be on that field.
Going down the list here, Ben Neiman. Talk about a diamond in the rough for Brett Veach and this front office staff. UDFA a few years ago. Now he's a starter on this team. And just a really great camp for Ben Neiman. I think his best camp so far as a pro. And Matt House, linebackers coach, he mentioned that Ben looks so much more comfortable now this year. He kind of knows his role. He knows what he's doing on this defense, and he's more comfortable in this defense.
Yeah, Ben Neiman might be the most instinctive linebacker we have on our squad. And the instinct is being comfortable, being able to know what Hitchens is thinking. Both of those Iowa Hawkeye, they both come from Iowa University, so they have that little Hawkeye instinct, I think, in common. But what they do together on that field, they have each other's back. They know what each other is thinking, and that comes from playing together and being very instinctive. And what he's done this year, he's come back bigger and stronger. Because if there was one thing negative about his game overall, is that at the point of contact, sometimes he wasn't as physical and strong getting off blockers. But the Ben Neiman I see this year has come back 10 pounds heavier, a lot stronger, and I've seen him get rid of guys in a heartbeat down on the practice field.
Speaking of big and strong, how about rookie linebacker Willie Gay Jr., a guy a lot of people are very excited about, myself included. Really physical player, but he also had the top coverage grade of any player in the draft, according to Pro Football Focus.
Hey, man, one thing I know about is coverage. That was something I kind of tipped my hat and hung my hat on my entire career as being a cover linebacker. Willie Gay Jr. does something that most guys don't. He has the feet, the hips, he has the intelligence and the coverability of a safety playing the linebacker position. And when most guys you're thinking about a guy who's 215, 220 pounds. He's 245, runs 4.4. This guy can move. He can cover. He goes sideline to sideline, vertical seam against the tight end. There's no tight end or running back in the league that's going to create separation against Willie Gay Jr.
So a young linebacker coming into the NFL, especially a guy with high expectations like Willie, what's some advice you would give to him as a young player just coming into the league trying to make his mark?
All I can do is look back at myself. When I came out of the University of Richmond back in 2 decades ago, in 1998, the one thing I made sure is I did not want my lack of knowledge about our defense, our checks, our balances, our adjustments to be a reason to get me off the field. So I was obsessed in learning the plays, learning the coverage, knowing where I belonged in the defense, knowing my calls, not waiting on anybody else to tell me what my adjustments was. And so if there's anything I can tell this young man, challenge yourself off the field to be just as good mentally at your position as that he is physically on the field.
The guys that round out this group, Dorian O'Daniel, Darius Harris, and Omari Cobb, some young, really athletic players. O'Daniel, of course, is a former third-round draft pick, and Harris and Cobb are just now showing this front office what they can do on the field. We'll go back to Mitch Holthus here in a moment. He will be talking to Chiefs Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt. But, Sean, before we do that, this linebacking core, as they're kind of developing and improving here in this Chiefs defense, this defense was so good last season. How important is this linebacking core and their development and making sure that defense carries over what they did last year?
I think if you look on a national scene, the linebacking core of this group is the one that's being not respected. If you talk, because we know on the back end we have Honey Badger. We know up front we got Frank Clark, and we have Chris Jones. But it's the middle of this defense that everybody's thinking that's where we want to attack. And so you got to have a little chip on your shoulder. You got something in you that when somebody wants to challenge your position group, you got to have each other's back, and you got to be ready to just attack every down like it's your last, because you just never know. The NFL is not for long, but this linebacker crew definitely has to be put in a position where they put the weight on their back, they bear the cross, because this defense definitely has the ability on all 3 levels to rise to a top defense in the NFL.
I think you could still play, man. I think you could do it. You look pretty good. All right, let's toss it back to Mitch Holthus. He is talking to Chiefs Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt.
And all that went with that, and then the challenge over the last 5 months of trying to get the NFL back on the field. It's great to see the guys practicing. You know, we're a month or so into training camp, and you know, things have gone really, really well. I would say better than any of us expected, and we're so excited to be less than 2 weeks away from the regular season now.
Clark, you talk about your mindset. You know, Rick spoke about it, 6-8 months ago. Who would have thought we would be in this position right now? As you've grown, and we've grown towards the season, talk about your excitement about being back here on Arrowhead, and if you really even thought that this was going to be the case, that we'd have 5,000 fans watching a practice in late August getting prepared for the opener.
Yeah, well, as we went through the process over the last 5 months, there were a lot of emotional highs and lows. You know, there were days where you thought, we're not going to have a season at all, and then there were days where we thought, yeah, we're going to have a season, and maybe we can have some fans. It's been a process, and I've got to just give credit to our entire organization. They've done a great job, and that goes from Brett and Andy on the football side to Mark Donovan and his team on all the logistics behind the scenes that have to come together so that we can play games at Arrowhead. I'm thrilled we're going to be playing at Arrowhead, kicking off with the Texans on Thursday night. And I'm also really, really excited that we're going to have some fans here to cheer our team on and to help drop and raise the championship banner, which is going to be a special moment for all of us.
You got an umbrella. I was hoping you had the trophy under your arm today. You were carrying it around the sidelines. But how have you been able to kind of celebrate a title?
Yeah, well, it's definitely been a little bit different, than in a normal year. I had so many people reach out to me after the Super Bowl who wanted me to come speak to them and bring the trophy with me. Of course, once we got to early March, all those plans were off. And probably the best way our family celebrated the Super Bowl was having the trophy with us in quarantine. We quarantined with the trophy for several months.
As you should.
Yep. And it was one of the things that brought a smile to our face every day.
That's the way to do a quarantine, is have the Lombardi Trophy in the living room. This has been a historic offseason as well, and commitment comes to the word that goes right to the top of the list here. The commitment you made, the family made, especially in redoing or extending the deal for Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones and Travis Kelce in the same offseason to get that done. And what about the commitment that it's taken and how it charts the course for the future?
Yeah, well, just getting back to what a crazy 4 or 5 months it's been, we knew this offseason that we wanted to try to get deals done with both Patrick and Chris. Then we got into the pandemic and questions about whether we would even have a football season, questions about what the cap is going to be this year, next year. All those things were very, very challenging. If you looked around the National Football League, very few big deals were done during the summer because of that uncertainty. But we decided that we needed to keep our core intact, that we've got a championship team here. They proved it in February in Miami, and as we look to the future, we've got a great group of young players, and we think they'll have a chance to bring some more Lombardis back to Kansas City.
Clark, you've had a great position, obviously, as the owner of the Chiefs. You get to sit in on discussions with the Patrick Mahomeses and Travis Kelce's and the Chris Joneses and those negotiations, but you also have the other position of sitting amongst other NFL owners during the offseason. And with this intricate and interesting offseason, talk about how the conglomerate, I guess you can say, of NFL owners coming together and putting together practices to balance the safety and health and make sure that football gets as close to normalcy as possible.
Well, one of the great benefits the National Football League had was just where the pandemic fell in terms of our schedule. And as a Chiefs fan, I think we all feel very blessed that we were able to get that Super Bowl in February, because had the pandemic come 6 weeks earlier, we might not have played that game. So it worked from a schedule standpoint perfectly, which gave everybody, starting with the owners, everybody at the league office, our staff, working with the city here, a chance to work through everything that has to happen from a health and safety standpoint so that we can play the 2020 season. And I mentioned it earlier, our group has done an outstanding job. Our players and coaches proved that they were championship quality in February, but I'll tell you what, our staff, our medical teams have shown that they're championship quality here over the last 4 or 5 months as they've worked through the protocols that have allowed us to have training camp and be here on the eve of the season, looking forward to playing that first game against Houston.
On the field now, we've transitioned to the first-team defense, getting their repetitions against the 2s and 3s on the offensive side. You had a bird's-eye view, Clark, of Travis Kelce going right by you for a touchdown that got the crowd excited.
Yeah, I sure did. That was exciting. That ball was coming right at me. I thought about challenging Kelce for it, but I decided I better not.
Kelce's had an incredible training camp. I don't know if anybody's worked harder. He works like he's an undrafted free agent trying to make the team instead of a future Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Clark, we got about 5,000 fans in the stands today, and obviously that's kind of another step. We've seen other locations across the country, other NFL stadiums that fans aren't going to be in. I think we're in a fortunate location as well, that we've done a pretty good job of staying safe. What are the keys to you to be able to still have fans in the stands as we kind of proceed this season?
Well, this season really is about self-responsibility. That's a message that Andy and the coaching staff have hit over and over with the players, that if we want to play this entire football season, it really comes down to us as individuals to make decisions to keep the football team safe. The same thing goes with the fans. We've got a lot of great protocols. We're going to be able to have everybody socially distanced. We're going to have the fans wearing masks, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to the fans making the right decision so that we can continue to have them here at Arrowhead. And just looking around today, it's great to see everybody spaced out. It's raining today. It's not a great day to be outside, but they're spaced out and they have their masks on, and that's what we want to see during the season.
Clark, thank you so much. Very shortly, it is going to be historic because you and Lamar Hunt Jr. are going to raise a flag in this stadium that will be a testimony to the incredible season and to the commitment that your family has made to the Chiefs Kingdom and to the National Football League. It's going to be a special moment, sir.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm looking forward to getting to do that with my brother. That Super Bowl IV flag has been up there awfully lonely for the last 50 years, and we're gonna give it a friend today with the Super Bowl 54 flag that we designed to look very, very similar. It's going to go up there with it.
It gives me chills. The chairman and CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs, Clark Hunt. Thank you, Clark, very much.
Absolutely great being on with you guys today.
Thanks a lot, Clark.
And just the commitment that family has made. You look at the financial commitment to get those guys re-signed.
Yes.
It's really unprecedented in many ways in the National Football League.
So creative as well. We go into each and every season, and we'll get a chance to talk to each later as well. But you go into each offseason, you hear all these stories about the salary cap and what you can and can't do. And it's just a testament of getting the right people around you, the guys, the experts that know numbers better than any of us will ever know, and then having the ability to communicate with not just the players, but the players' representatives to get everyone on the same page, making sure you're enforcing the importance of keeping this family together. And Clark has assembled such a great staff that is accomplishing it in amazing fashion. It's so fun to watch. I think the fans, not just the ones that are here, but the ones that will be here in less than 14 days and around the Chiefs Kingdom, can recognize how impressive that is, that they get a chance to hold strong onto their superstars and not just watch those guys leave to other organizations.
The first-team defense again on the field, Kling. I'm so excited about these guys, particularly the last 72 hours. Rick talked about them playing fast. I said it's been fast and furious in a positive way. We just saw Colin Saunders chase down a screenplay, and Colin's well over 3 1/4. But just this defense, and we see we talk about interchangeable parts, but how the different Spags, we talk about also the imagination of Coach Reed on offense. We're seeing that same imagination defensively with Steve Spagnuolo.
And you're seeing a bounce in the step of this defense too, right in the field, right in front of our eyes. You can see the energy that they're playing with in a practice setting right now, and they're getting after ball hawking. Had an interception a couple minutes ago, and as you mentioned, chasing down the screen. They're on the attack. You can tell even in a practice setting against their own teammates here.
You guys are Iowa Hawkeyes. Ben Neiman's had a great camp. He's jumping up even another notch higher. We've also seen Tano Passanio have a big camp. I want to ask you, Danon, just about how disruptive and attacking the front is. Rick even alluded to it. Chris Jones has been awesome the last couple days at camp. Mentioned Tano Passanio, Frank Clark, even Taco Charlton, who's wearing 94, a new player, former first-round draft pick of the Dallas Cowboys, is at 94 jersey today. And their ability to wreck a line of scrimmage or to on stunts, whether you call them a TT stunt or a TE stunt, how good and how attacking and how explosive can this defensive front of the Chiefs be?
Well, one point that I want to clarify for the fans that are watching practice, just because the offense is completing passes against the defense or it looks like a run may go for a long yardage does not mean that's a negative play. It does not mean that the scout players for the Chiefs are gashing the defense. It's more about positioning. It's more about being where you're supposed to be. Obviously, without them having the luxury of tackling and being in full equipment, they have to go at a regulated pace. So oftentimes we watch practice and I recognize, okay, that play wouldn't have been made. That would have been stopped for a negative yardage. From a fan's perspective that watch games all the time, that see the good and the bad and the ugly, just because you're seeing it in a moderate pace, don't take that the defense is not where they need to be and ready for next week. Now, to answer your question about the guys up front, saw Chris Jones talk about it last week in regards to taking the run personally, what he does, and that is infectious amongst those front seven and those guys up front. They recognize that teams are going to try to run the ball against them.
All right, welcome back to our training camp live desk down here on the concourse. Once again, I'm Matt McMullen. He's Sean Barber. Sean, it's time for our 5 observation segment. brought to you by Community America Credit Union. And the first one's pretty obvious. We're seeing it right now out here. You saw when Travis Kelce caught that touchdown, the crowd went crazy. Only 5,000 fans here, but it feels like there's 50,000 just in terms of their voices. How important is it to have the Arrowhead Experience Part 2 here, where fans are out here cheering the guys on and the players are getting ready for a game day environment as opposed to just being at normal training camp?
I mean, it's going to be really important, at the start of the season. Home games are going to be more important. They're going to be easier to adjust to. The travel situation, the fans, you're used to it. But you got to believe that the offense is going to be able to start fast, using hard counts, using tempo. The defense, most teams defensively are going to kind of struggle early on trying to keep up with the offense. And so our offense is already light years ahead of most other teams, and I think this gives us either a greater advantage going into the start of the season because we're keeping everything the same. We're starting where we left off last year and just creating extra chapters to a great story book to begin with.
And that leads into our second observation, all about attitude. And the attitude of this team has been unreal, if you ask me, throughout training camp. It's not easy coming into a camp with no OTAs, no mini camp, no preparation together as a team. A lot of teams would look at that and be frustrated, but this group looks at it as an opportunity to be great and take advantage of this situation. There's been so much energy and intensity throughout this camp. It's really been great to see.
Man, and the thing that's going to be different from this year to last year, week 1 to week 4, the defense was getting used to Spags' defense. They're getting used to being on the field together. And now this season, everybody, it's almost like business as usual. The veterans are definitely going to rise to the occasion because they already know how to ignore the distractions, how to only try to control the things that you can actually control. And so when you get in a situation like today, the balls are wet, the timing's supposed to be 9 o'clock, it gets pumped back to 9:30. Those are the nuances that veteran players handle better than young players. And our team is not only a veteran team, but they're veteran because they're playing in the same system. And that's something that you're not going to be able to recreate. There are other teams that new coaches, new systems, they're going to struggle the first half of the season just trying to know what football is like playing under these new restraints with the COVID in place.
And you mentioned the defense there. This defense was the best defense in the NFL from Week 11 through the end of the regular season. And that leads us into our next point, little brother no more. And Chris Jones on our training camp live show yesterday said that this defense is tired of being the little brother to this offense. The offense is the best in the league. We all know that. But this defense deserves respect as well. You're a defensive guy. You know the pride defensive players have. How much pride and energy does this defense have trying to show that they deserve to be one of the best defenses in the league?
Man, when you say little brother, the first thing, listen, I am the younger of two boys, and so I know what it means to have a big brother always picking on you, getting a small piece of the chicken and all those kind of things, being the last person, having to do most of the chores. And I also came from a small school. University of Richmond is not a football powerhouse. Mm-hmm. And so I know what it's like to get on a field and have a feeling that everybody else has come from either a bigger program, knows more, but that's the equalizer of this field. When it comes to making plays, being explosive, chasing the ball, giving relentless effort and attitude, preparation, all of those things equate everything. So the big brother, little brother mentality, when it's time to strap on those pads and it's time to hit, that's when those different variances of big brother, little brother go out the window. This defense has a chance to be one of the best defenses in this league and try to be one of the best defenses in the history of football, and they get the opportunity to start it Thursday night against the Houston Texans.
We just saw the hair, the flow of Tommy Townsend just now, the new punter of the Kansas City Chiefs. The guy probably has the best hair on the team now, I would say. We'll transition here into our fourth observation, good to great. And this team has a lot of superstars, but it also has several players who are on the cusp of being a superstar, in my opinion. Guys like McCole Hardman, Juan Thornhill, Charvarius Ward, these are all players that took big steps last season and are on the verge of being great players.
Man, good can be the enemy of great, and then great can be the enemy of being elite. And this team, we're striving to be elite. We're striving to be legendary, and that's a decade of excellence. So when you start talking about patting each other on the back, hey, man, you did a good job. When I hear Honey Badger talking about his play against the Houston Texans, against the Tennessee Titans, and against the San Francisco 49ers, I hear him talk about the missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Yes, we won the Super Bowl, but he talks about how many interceptions he could have had by just watching the ball in, finishing the play, and that's what I get excited about. When I hear Pat Mahomes talking about there are some nuances about a defense I can either become even greater at recognizing certain pressure packages and what to do with the ball to make our offense even more effective, even more explosive. Not resting on the laurels that I was an MVP my second year. I was a Super Bowl MVP my third year. It's all about getting better. It's all about exploring opportunities from a mindset of growth, of how to just explode and flourish and just be the best you can be. And that's what Andy, he creates an environment on every phase, on every level, on all three phases, how to be great. Challenge yourself to be great. Be better each day when you're on the practice field.
And that breeds a culture, and we've seen what that culture can do. Leads to a Super Bowl title, Chiefs' first Super Bowl title in 50 years. All right, our final observation here, life on the bubble. So for several of these guys in this camp, cut-down date is coming up. And there's a different practice squad rules this year where the practice squad is bigger at 16 players, so the opportunity is a bit different for those guys. But if you're a player on that bubble right now, what's your mentality like going into cut-down day?
Man, you talk about fear. having fear of a guy knocking on your door, getting a phone call, asking you to bring your playbook up, bring your iPad up. You know, I showed my age right there, but bring your iPad in and hey, guy, your time is done here in Kansas City. But the one thing Coach and Brett Veach do, they'll call other teams. If you're a good football player, you'll find a place in the league. For 10 years in the league, I challenged myself to fight, claw, scratch, have an edge, and be hungry like I was number 53. Like I was fighting for that 53rd spot from day one in camp until the final roster was announced. And I did that for 10 seasons. It didn't matter if I was a starting linebacker, if I was a four-core special teams player, no matter what my role was as far as defensively, how many snaps I got, that allows you to have a comfort and a kind of a human nature takes over. You become content. You think, I've arrived. To prevent that from happening, always fight like you're number 53.
And my question for you, Sean, is how can you keep that going as you continue? Because we've talked about guys like Travis Kelce. Mitch and I talked about it yesterday. He's fighting like he's trying to be on this roster. Well, he's the best tight end in football. I mean, he could take the whole camp off and still be on this team. How do you keep that mentality as you go through your career? You establish yourself as a veteran. How do you keep that mindset?
If you talk about Kelce, I bet he rewinds the film and he talks about that first or second drive of the Texans game, that one drop pass that made us punt the ball. When you are at that elite level and you are one of the best, what got Kelce there is those fine details, that attention to detail, that not taking anything less than his best on every day. And that's that commitment, that's that persistence, that's that constant level of holding yourself more accountable. That inside motivation is so much more important than any coach, any teammate. You have to be driven internally to be great.
Absolutely. Well, we are so lucky to have so many guys fighting for spots in this roster. This team is a great team. Some tough decisions to come, but this team will be better because of it. All right, well, let's go back to Mitch Holthus and the radio crew in the booth for some more training camp coverage from those guys.
He, of course, has Dylan McCullough. He's got meaning Edwards-Helaire, but he also has Anthony Sherman, who is one of the best pass-protecting running backs I've seen, along with Tony Richardson, in my brief 27 years in this job. But to take the time, everybody's gone. I was watching this. Everybody's gone off the field, and it's Anthony Sherman to take extra time with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Well, that just tells you about the leadership and the mindset of these guys. And I think a lot of fans may think, hey, everybody's out for themselves. It's their job. There's only a certain amount of spots, certain amount of positions that you can have. It's dog-eat-dog out there. No, it's not. Not in the locker room, not in the meeting room. Players want other players to shine. You never see the backup defensive back, walking around with his head down because the starting defensive back made a big play. You never see that in the running back room as well. There's always excitement for your brother that's on the field. And when you have guys that now have won a Super Bowl but still paying attention to the details and putting forth, planting those seeds in the younger guys so that they can be great, so that the entire organization can be in a great place as well. They pay it forward, and it's great to hear those stories about Anthony Sherman and the other leaders on this team.
Fling, we just saw Darrell Williams peel off an off-tackle run as well. It's not just Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The rest of this running back group has also had their moments. But Darrell Williams, who's been a big brother to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not only just here but at LSU, is another mentoring among the running back room. But he's brings another element to this team. He's 227 pounds. The rest of those running backs, Clyde, and you look at Darwin Thompson and Washington, those are all in about the 207 range. The role that Darrell Williams has on this team can be easily overlooked.
Yeah, and this group as a whole, right? I mean, there's opportunities there to get some valuable playing time. And if you can do things, you mentioned versatility earlier, Dane, and if you can be versatile and Darrell Williams can give you something others can't, it's 15 pounds, right? Yeah. And if nothing else, it's 15 pounds, right, at that running back position. So, yeah, he's got an opportunity to step up as well. Darwin Thompson, who even admittedly he thought he should have done a little bit more last year. He's looking to have a big season. And then DeAndre Washington, I think, was a nice another kind of under the radar move for this Chiefs team to create some depth.
And it's a complementary thing, Mitch. When you got a guy like Williams in the backfield that is a bigger body, why do we talk about that? Well, there's 4 minutes at the end of each game where you need to secure a win. You're up by 4 points. There's 4 minutes left. There's 2 minutes left in the game, and all you need to do is keep the ball on your side and keep the chains moving. That's where you get a big running back that can go in when everybody in the stadium knows you're going to run the ball. They take it personally down on the field, and you still get the job done.
It doesn't take a lot of memory to go back to the Baltimore Raven game, which was the exact description of what you just gave. And Coach worked on the 4-minute offense this week as part of the practice plan. In that game against that team that went 14-2 in the regular season, they were able to take the ball and say, our ball, it's over. And it was Darrell Williams that made the big plays, a 14-yard screen pass on third down, and the Ravens never got the football back. And when a team can do that, it takes sometimes that bigger running back or two back or Sherman coming out, but a team that gets the 4-minute and just takes it away can become lethal to the opponent.
Yeah, you don't want to always be coming from behind, and we've shown the ability to do that with 15 at the helm. And I also want to clarify something with the practice. A lot of the fans may wonder, okay, well, why are they practicing their plays from the 24, 25-yard line, now moving it up incrementally in practice? Well, you practice based on scenarios that you're going to have in the game. So the defense flipped the page. They were practicing earlier in practice. They were doing their walkthrough with their bodies up against the goal line. Why? Because they were working on goal line defense. Offense is moving out into the middle of the field. They want to be able to visualize and put themselves in a position where they're going to be normally in the game, drives that are going to start after kickoffs at the 25 or on their end of the field. So there's a method to the madness on why you're seeing, when the horn blows, a total shift of all the bodies on the field to a specific point on a specific yard line on the field.
I just figured it was to give Patrick enough space to really wing it if you needed to. That's why I figured they were starting down at the 25.
I'm not sure you can find enough space for that. The first team defense is on the field, and again, this group has had a very good training camp. A new player that you may not know about, L'Jarius Sneed, is in this group right now, number 38. The rest are familiar to you. We mentioned Neiman has had a good camp. In the last group, we saw Willie Gay Jr., the second-round draft pick out of Mississippi State, get some repetitions with that core. But also, again, Spags will put out any combination of DBs, linebackers. He just makes it very difficult to prepare for. And we're not giving away any secrets here, because you could sit there and stay up all night. You're still not going to be ready for all the stuff that he is going to bring on you. But just the attitude of this group, too, and mentally just how well coached they are. I think of Brandon Daly with the defensive line. All the way down the line, this is a team that is superbly coached on defense.
And not just coached from the meeting room or with the guys in the headsets from the booth or on the sideline, but they're coached on the field by the players. They're coached by guys like Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark.
All right, Matt McMullen, Sean Barber, back with you here at the Chiefs training camp live desk, and we are entering a defensive period of this 10-10-10 practice, and we have a defensive guru here with us, so we might as well ask Sean a few questions about this defense as these guys are preparing for the 2020 season. So we've talked about the linebackers, Sean. I want to talk a bit about the defensive line and the pass rush. A lot of depth there, a lot of young players and some veteran players as well. What impresses you about both the pass rush and the interior of this defensive line?
Well, first of all, it's not the superstar athletes. We know what we're going to get from Chris Jones. We know Frank Clark is going to be like a shark circling in the water. He's looking for that chum. He's waiting for just the sniff of that little bit of blood before he can pounce. But it's the rest of the guys. It's the Passano. What is he going to do? Right? He's going to be right on the cusp of being a game breaker this year. You know you're going to get double teamed from Chris Jones. You know that Frank Clark is going to get chipped. It's the one-on-ones of the other guys up front that you need to step up, become big playmakers, and make big plays in the biggest scenarios.
We talk about guys good to great in our last segment. Tano Passano is one of those guys in my mind. Really didn't know what we had in him the first 2 years. Then last year he starts 8 games, has 4 sacks, really broke out as a player. Taco Charlton is another guy I'm pretty excited about. I think he can kind of fill that Emmanuel Ogbah role from last year, a guy that comes in, doesn't have to be a starter, but he can have fresh legs in that pass rush, come in and get a bunch of sacks for you, create some pressure. All right, now looking at the secondary, this group is interesting because we always talk about this. We don't call them cornerbacks and safeties with the Chiefs at this point. We call them defensive backs because all of these guys can do a little bit of everything. Tyrann Mathieu can play the best corner on this team if he wanted to be, also the best safety in the NFL if you ask me. What impresses you about these defensive backs?
Well, first of all, it's going to be the youth, right? They're so young and they play with so much. They play beyond their years. We got guys that can go and play multiple positions. We got our outside guys that can play the slot. We got slot guys who can go play number 1 receivers. That allows our defense to be so multifaceted. You don't really know if we're in a man or zone or some type of hybrid defense because we can put so many guys in different positions. We can bring Juan Thornhill, Sorensen into the box as linebackers. We can have our outside corners, Ward, Bo Peep, Breezy come in and play the slot. But these young guys, right, Bo Peep Keys and Sneed, Ladarius Sneed, going out there and knowing that year one, they can be counted upon to go out and be lockdown corners. It's about the mirrorability of their feet. It's about keeping the right leverage. This is a championship defense. We don't need supermen to come make these outstanding plays. We need everybody to know their role, know how they fit into a defense, play their role accordingly, and then when the chance comes to make a big play, you make it. You make those big plays and make the most out of your opportunities, and those are the type of playmakers in the back end that make the front end and linebackers all enjoy having those pressures on the cornerback, those tackles for loss, getting people into 3rd and 2nd and longs, because then the secondary, their radar starts to peep up because they know that ball's going to be in the air.
You mentioned Juan Thornhill there. That's a guy I'm so excited to watch this season. I mean, think about what a year he had last year. He was the top rookie safety in all of pro football, according to Pro Football Focus last season. Really tough break, tears his ACL in Week 17. But 8 months later, here he is participating in team drills. Just absolutely phenomenal work ethic from Juan Thornhill. Really excited to see what he can do this season.
All right, man, Juan Thornhill is a guy from my neck of the woods. He's an old Virginia product, right? Two up, 2 down. That's what we do in VA. But his attention to detail of his game, but his persistence to get back on the field. You know this kid loves football. You can always tell what guys love to do by how passionate they are to get back to doing what they love to do. And the only guy in football I've ever known to come back from an ACL injury, and that was Adrian Peterson. Mm-hmm. And we all know he's an alien. He's cut from a different cloth. I think Juan Thornhill might have that same AP all-day mentality. So I look forward to seeing him get back on that field, making plays. He's a playmaker by nature.
We saw Dan Sorensen on the screen here a few moments ago. He's kind of epitomizing what you've talked about throughout the show, where he does so many little things well. I mean, he's not a big name. You don't hear about the big plays generally from Dan Sorensen unless it's against the Houston Texans in the playoffs. But he does so many little things well that adds up to being a great player.
Man, Dirty Dan has been a nightmare for Phillip Rivers his entire career. Every time we need a big play against Phillip Rivers, Dirty Dan is the guy that makes the play. But he rises to the occasion. When you need the defense to make one final stop, that one interception, that one tackle for loss, when you need your special teams, when they go for it on 4th down, and there's a player on an island by himself, either he makes a tackle or they get another set of downs, you can count on Dirty Dan to be a consistent playmaker. And he, like you say, he does everything well, jack of all trades. He always rises to the occasion and makes big plays for the Chiefs defense.
All right, so we are approaching a field goal period here for Harrison Butker. In my opinion, best kicker in football right now. The guy is really establishing himself as one of the best players in the league at his position. Harrison Butker has 426 points through his career so far, and he came in week 4 in his rookie season with the Chiefs back in 2017. It's the most points by any player through their first 3 seasons in NFL history. Really incredible stuff from Harrison. But the thing to watch here, Sean, that I think is so interesting is a new holder for the first time in 15 years, Tommy Townsend. What's impressed you about Tommy Townsend's ability as a holder in addition to a punter so far?
Well, he's coming into a scenario where somebody who he's replacing has done it at a very high level for so long. So he knows he's stepping into some big shoes, but he's not trying to be the next Dustin. He's trying to be the greatest Tommy he can be. And that's the type of attitude you ask all the players to be. Let your own personality show. Don't come in trying to be nobody else. You're not filling anybody else's role. We're going to create and customize this position to fit you. And what more can you ask for a day when you're talking about the field goal, right? It talks about the comfort of the holder, the snapper, and the kicker. You want it to rain today. You want your team to be put in some of the most adverse situations on the practice field, because then when it comes to the game scenario, everything becomes a lot easier.
It's such an important job. I mean, you don't want to hear the holder's name unless there's some kind of mistake. But Tommy Townsend so far has looked really good to me. Important role there, and he's really taking it on. What's impressed me about Tommy Townsend coming into camp is he was prepared to come into camp. And that's what Dave Toub and Harrison Butker have both said. He was prepared for success when he came in here. And a lot of guys, when they have a lot of talent, a lot of success in school, they show up and think, okay, well, that will just translate over. That wasn't Tommy Townsend. He's come in here for success, prepared for that. Now, Harrison Butker, our last practice at Arrowhead last Saturday, he hit a 62-yard field goal and nearly hit a 69-yard field goal, bounced right in front of the upright. It was almost good. It was so close. Do you think Harrison Butker hits a NFL record long kick this year? I think he might.
It's not even if he does or not. We know he has the ability to. And so, unfortunately, when our offense is so effective at moving the ball, there's not a likely chance of us getting stalled out that far away. But at the end of a half, the ball's laid down on the 40-yard line. Who knows what's going to happen? And I heard there is a story, there's some tape about him sometime at some point hitting a 77-yarder. That's from the other 33-yard line, and he's making it. So I don't know where that film is. I don't know if we're ever going to find it. If anybody's going to see it, it might be like the Loch Ness Monster film. But if there's ever a chance for a guy to make a game-winning end-of-half long field goal, Harrison Butker, what he does, his attention to detail, it's the same. He hits everyone the same. As that golf swing is so pure, so sweet. All he worried about is good contact, ball flight. Everything else takes care of itself.
Video of that field goal is available. You can find that on Twitter. Harrison tweeted it out over the offseason. I mean, just ridiculous. I mean, a 77-yard field goal, and we actually asked Harrison about that on one of our previous training camp live shows. He knows he's never going to have to hit a 77-yarder in a game, but the whole mental process of going in, approaching a long kick like that, that prepares him for a 62-yarder, a 65-yarder, something a bit more realistic. In a lot of ways, it makes it seem a lot closer all of a sudden. Like, well, if I can hit a 77-yarder, this 60-yarder is no big deal at all. At some point, Harrison Butker will kick a kick like that this season for the Chiefs to win a game, and I'm confident he can make it.
We talk about how sports translate from one to the other. Think about NBA. Think about Dame time. Think about Steph Curry. How often do you see them pull up at the logo from half court? Because they know they are so consistent from half court and from the logo, the normal three-pointer, it becomes a layup to them. And so that's how you can shoot three-pointers at 45%. It's because you're used to taking it from half court. That's the same thing with Harrison Butker. He's money from anything beyond the Chiefs logo at midfield. So, like you said, hitting those long ones just brings added confidence to being consistent at the normal range.
And what's always impressed me about him from day one is his confidence. I mean, he first came in here off the Carolina Panthers practice squad, and he wasn't nervous at all. I mean, his first game, he comes against Washington on Monday Night Football with time expiring, kicks a game-winning field goal. Amazing stuff from Harrison Butker, and we've seen awesome stuff from him, and we'll see awesome things in the future. There's Patrick Mahomes, the reigning Super Bowl MVP. Patrick Mahomes, think about his career so far. He's broken about every record imaginable. NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP. He's not even 25 years old yet. What's next for Patrick Mahomes, in your opinion?
He stays humble, stays hardworking, stays dedicated to the process being greater than the product. Think about that when you say that. The process is greater than the product. That's so hard to think about when the product is Super Bowl rings, MVP, top 4 and the 100 guys. And all of those things are products that make most people think that I'm doing the things the right way. Just got to recreate what I'm already doing. But with Pat Mahomes, the hunger, the sacrifice, his competition, the competitive nature of this man is off the chart. It doesn't matter if it's chess, checkers, the golf game, top golf, whatever it is, he wants to go out and dominate and be the best. That type of mentality, that growth mentality in this young man will consistently keep his skill level ascending, and it'll keep challenging Andy Reid to keep developing new plays and new ways of making him even more impactful to the NFL.
I mean, his career so far is just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, it's unprecedented in NFL history. One of my favorite stats about Patrick, because the guy he gets compared to a lot is Dan Marino. Well, all of a sudden now he has something Dan Marino never had, a Super Bowl victory. And also, Dan Marino was really good in the playoffs to start his career. Before turning 25 years old, he had 13 touchdown passes. Patrick Mahomes is the only other guy to do that, have 13 touchdown passes in the postseason before turning 25. But the difference is Marino threw 10 interceptions in the playoffs in that span. Patrick Mahomes has only thrown 2. So as good as he is at his best when it matters most.
Man, it's one thing to throw 100 times and hope for the best. It's one thing just to overload offense with pass opportunities, because you know that, like we think about Jameis Winston, right? He throws the ball all the time, gets amazing yardage, but he also, right, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. It leaves your team struggling to make wins. But when you can throw for a 5-to-1, a 6-to-1, 7-to-1 ratio of touchdowns to interceptions throughout your career, even when the defense know you love the deep ball, you love to hold on to it, you love to look downfield, it creates opportunities like the wasp play. It creates so many deep play action opportunities for Pat and for receivers to get on the same page and uncover that some of these plays become undefensible. No matter what the coverage is, eventually the defensive backfield breaks down, and Pat has the arm and the vision to still make those completions happen. And he also has the legs to stay away from the defense long enough to get those opportunities. So, man, when you talk about combining everything he has combined to be what we call PM15, Pat Mahomes, the playmaker, Showtime Pat, and a list of other nicknames we have for him here in Kansas City, I mean, he's the golden child. He's the guy that we want to lead us for the next decade in this legacy that we try to create here in Kansas City, who's winning as many Super Bowls as we can over the next 12 seasons.
Love the sound of that, and I think Patrick Mahomes will lead us to a lot of those over the next several years. That first one's out of the way, so I think we'll get a lot more here in the years to come. Looking at practice here, we saw Marcus Kemp, wide receiver, back now, catch a pass a few plays ago. He, of course, had that knee injury last year. He was not on the roster, but he is back in this camp. And there's Nick Keiser, tight end, kind of an exciting player in this camp. Has played pretty well. He was on the practice squad last year, played well in the preseason last year, too. He's one of the guys that's kind of stood out in this camp. But Patrick Mahomes, just looking good once again. He's looked so good in this camp. You would think a guy that has had so much success would maybe take a day off or two, but haven't seen that at all from Patrick Mahomes. And one guy who I think is going to help him out even more this season is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, rookie tailback. What's so exciting about him to me is not only his rushing ability, but also his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Well, he showed that at LSU that he can do it all. He's a guy that has all the components of being a all-pro, all-rookie, all-everything type of running back, and the only thing he needs is the opportunity. And unfortunately, Damon Williams opted out on this season, but that opened up a opportunity for the next man to create an even greater load than what he was originally going to get. And when you talk about embracing opportunity, that's the good and the bad. When you have a chance to do something that's good, when you have the chance to embrace the suck, sometimes things don't end up the way you envisioned it or the way you planned for it. There are certain players that rise to the occasion, even in the most turmoil situations, and those are the players, we call it, they find the way in the grind. While things are grinding, they create grit. They create mindset. They create things that take the negative anticipation, all the negativity everybody's pouring over, and they let that raise them to a higher level. And so, man, letting that negative mentality become kind of like an elevator to even raise Edwards-Helaire up to a greater standpoint in his rookie year, I'm looking for that. I'm looking for him to be one of the greatest, not just rookies, but greatest running backs in Chiefs history in season 1.
Tyrann Mathieu spoke about that exact mentality earlier in this camp. He said he was preaching to these young players to fall in love with the grind. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. It hasn't always been perfect for guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, L'Jarius Sneed, Willie Gay, a lot of these rookies. But they got drafted for a reason. Yes. They're talented players. We know what they can do, and they've really all grown throughout this camp. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, really excited about him. Looking at these receivers, Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson at the bottom of your screen. Also, McCole Harbin is a guy that I'm really excited to watch this season. Sean, he has 26 catches last year, but has over 500 yards, 6 receiving touchdowns, averaged over 40 yards a touchdown. Unbelievable.
Man, you talk about explosiveness. That's the definition of explosiveness. A guy that takes the most of every opportunity, no matter if it's a slant, a hitch, a curl route. Because of his top speed, he has the acceleration. He can turn that return ability. He makes a regular slant play into a kickoff return, into a punt return. Defensively, they can't find enough defenders to cover Tyreek Hill over the top, cover Damon, to cover Sammy Watkins with the double team with his physicality, to try to give a linebacker or safety some extra help with Kelsey, and then to think you're still going to put your third, maybe your fourth defender on Miko the Jet. On the jet.
And right on cue, scores a touchdown just now.
Man, that's what he does, man. He's a big playmaker, dog, and that's what he does. He rises to the occasion, a great mentality, a great work ethic. He joined a room led by Coach Greg Lewis. It doesn't allow you to rest on your laurels. It doesn't allow you to think that only run your route when your number is called. Everybody in this offense, every receiver, is alive on every route. You know, Pat has the arm, he has the vision, he has the tenacity to extend plays, to make everybody come open, and that is what fuels the fire of these receivers to this explode off the line and to put so much pressure vertically on a defense.
And now looking at this period here, it's a defensive period near the goal line, about how this team could be good defensively, keeping teams out of the end zone in these goal-to-go situations. And actually, this is something they were really good at last season. In terms of takeaways, no team had more interceptions in the red zone than the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best red zone defenses in all of football. How is that something you can carry over from season to season, being great in the red zone?
Man, it's a defensive mindset. If you watch our defensive practice, every ball that goes on the ground, you have 3 or 4 guys racing over it to pick it up. You don't let balls get on the ground. When somebody punches the ball out, you have multiple guys trying to get to it. You can't wait until the NFL seasons to start to be good at turnovers. It's something that has to be ingrained in your defense. That ball hawk mentality is something guys have to work on each and every day, because if you have to think about getting on the ball, it's too late. It has to be instinctive. It has to be reactive. The opportunity to punch a ball out, to get a ball out at the last second. And when you talk about this red zone defense right near the goal line, the one image that I can't get out of my mind is the Detroit Lions game. Mm-hmm. That game would have been it was almost a 14-point swing. They had the ball on the goal line. Breezy picks up that fumble, runs it the other way. Instead of Detroit scoring, we score. That's a 14-point swing in a game that comes down to the last drive of the game. Mm-hmm. Turnovers, Noddy stripping Stafford in the red zone also. That's the playmaking, that's the ball hawking mentality this defense has lived on and will continue to live on, and even develop even in a greater, I think, in a greater way this 2020 season.
Definitely. Saw Dan Sorensen with a pass break up there on the goal line. I'm so excited to see what this defense can do. Just a bunch of guys that are gamers. They want to prove that they are one of the best defenses in football, and if you're already pretty good and you have a chip on your shoulder, that's pretty exciting. Keep in mind here, practice is wrapping up, but do not go anywhere following practice, because we are raising a flag here at Arrowhead Stadium to celebrate our victory in Super Bowl 54, so you do not want to miss that. It's a moment 50 years in the making, Sean. I know I've been waiting for it my whole life. I'm 27 years old. You've been here as a player, ambassador, broadcaster. You've been waiting for it for quite a while as well. Should be really, really exciting. But here watching the final moments of practice, thinking about some of these defensive linemen. Colin Saunders, number 99, middle of this defense. St. Louis kid, went to a small school. The gap between Western Illinois, where he went, and the NFL is a big one. But we saw him make some plays last year. He's a guy I'm excited about this season.
Man, he has a great mentor to even follow behind when we talk about Noddy. Noddy's a guy, as a rookie, came from Florida State. It was a hole in the defense when it comes to rushing. Our season ended in overtime because we couldn't stop the run. And we addressed that with Noddy and Colin Sanders. And those two guys when Tennessee came to town, right? When they came with King Henry, who thought he was going to come in here and run for 200 yards on us, Frank Clark said it best. It doesn't matter what he did before our game. You got to prove it on our field, on our home against our defense. We don't care about what crown you come in here with, King Henry. And they stopped him. They stopped him over and over again, man. So that's what gets me excited about this defense is they can address and make adjustments to do anything they need to do to stop your strong point, make you try to beat us with one arm behind your back. And that's what a great defense does. It takes away your strengths. It takes away what you do best. And then we become aggressive. Everything is done on our rules.
How awesome was that? Everyone says the Chiefs can't stop the run. The best running back in the league comes in town and doesn't even get 100 yards rushing. Chiefs win that game handily. Really great stuff from this defense. Another guy on this defensive line, Chris Jones, gets the contract extension this offseason. What I love about Chris Jones is he is always setting goals for himself, and he's reaching them. Yeah. So before the 2018 season, he was coming off a 6-sack season, pretty good, but he said he wanted to lead the NFL in sacks. Everyone's like, okay, there's no way he's going to do that. All he does is get 15.5 sacks. Only guys in the league to have more were Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt. So amazing season from him there. And then following the season, Chiefs lose in the 2018 AFC title game. He says that the Chiefs will be in the Super Bowl the next year. Everyone's like, no, you won't. Well, what do you know? The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl the next year. Chris Jones is making plays in that Super Bowl, and they win the Super Bowl, of course. So his goal now, that he said after his contract extension, he wants to win Defensive Player of the Year. What gives you confidence Chris Jones can do that?
Man, he's a guy who believes in the things you say out of your mouth come to pass. The power of word is such a strong, positive force in someone's life. But you have to believe it. You have to have the faith. We talk about faith. He has a faith on a spiritual side. The faith to believe that things will happen to his good for the positive in his life comes from his spiritual. His spirituality is something that's probably one of the most spiritual guys on his team. He knows that you can only serve one master at a time. And if you're around here chasing dollars and chasing the things of this world, then sooner or later things come to crumble. He is a guy who is led by his spirit. He's led by faith, and he allows his faith to speak into him in a positive way about the things he's going to see from this team, from himself. And I believe that man, whatever he says, will come true at some point in time. And so I honor him for his faith and his commitment to this team. Most guys facing a contract year coming off a late injury during the season would value the extension, the contract negotiations more than their team actually making it to the Super Bowl. He did so many things great. He was doing so many things on a great level. He already proved how good he was, even coming back from that injury. But he wanted to be a part of this team in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. He wanted to be a part of making that run to get that ring. And so I have so much love and faith with that man, Chris Jones, man. He's a tremendous force on his team, but also in this community. Mm-hmm. He has such impact with the next generation in this community, from his smile, his demeanor. He's always positive. I love Chris Jones, man. He's an awesome, awesome part of this team.
I couldn't agree more. And what I love about this team, so many superstars, guys like Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and they are great people in this community, and they care about this community. They're investing back in it. That doesn't happen everywhere, and we have that here in Kansas City. Sean, it's almost time to raise a flag here. Practice has wrapped up. The guys are done with training camp for the 2020 season, which is hard to believe. It's over, but these guys have got a lot of work done here in just a matter of weeks. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We've had so much fun over our training camp live shows. Really enjoyed it. For Mitch Holthus, Sean Barber, and myself, thank you for watching. It is time to raise a flag, 50 years in the making. Let's toss it to Mitch Holthus. He will be bringing you through this as we raise a flag here, celebrating our victory in Super Bowl 54.
Mitch Holthus.
Hello, Chiefs Kingdom. We did it! Super Bowl champions! You are here on a historic morning, and thank you for braving the weather. Coach wants you to be dirty tough. You showed that this morning, because we're doing two things. We are celebrating a championship season, but we're getting ready to run it back with this incredible team that you see on the field. We appreciate you being season ticket members and your dedication to be a champion, as well as our entire organization. And now, please, your attention to the board to watch the trip to a Super Bowl 54 championship.
They're going to blow the clock out. That's it. Chiefs are the world champions of professional football.
It's a beautiful trophy, and it really is a satisfying conclusion to the 10 years of the American Football League. We're very proud to be the champions of pro football, and now have to set out to defend those honors next year.
100th year of the NFL, 60th year of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey, we worked all season for moments like these. All we need is what's in this white and red today. When we hit this field, we do what we do. Yes. We dominate.
Hey, we don't take no prisoners. They're our house. The whole world want to see us play.
Caught at the 40. Now 45, 50 in the open field. 10, 5, touchdown. It's a Sammy Watkins-Palooza.
And he makes the catch. What an effort.
And the Chiefs have 4 consecutive touchdowns.
We do what we do. We drive all day.
Oh, it's caught by Robinson. Touchdown. And Frank Clark will get the sack on Jackson.
Oh, and a flip to McMullen from Kelsey. That was sick.
Caught. Touchdown. Welcome back, the Cheetah. Down. Buckner's kick is up. And the kick is good. He got it. Butker got it. They fade around right side. It's intercepted. Intercepted. Dirty. Dan Sorensen picks it up. Takes the snap. Chiefs spring pressure. Left side throw. It is broken up in the end zone. Your Kansas City Chiefs are the AFC West champions again.
10:54 to go in the first half, and it's 24-0 Houston.
Do something special. One play at a time. Do something special.
Left side throw caught. 10-5 touchdown. Throws it late, and it's caught. The Chiefs take the lead. He's not out of bounds yet. Inside the 10, he dives for the end zone. Touchdown.
Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Kansas City is the AFC champion. They are headed to Miami for Super Bowl 54. Mahomes keeps it. Touchdown.
Do we have time to run Wall?
He's throwing long downfield for Tyreek Hill. Got it. Right side, they throw. Back in the end zone. Chiefs have life. Garoppolo to throw. Pass is tipped. Damian Williams trying to get to the edge. Breaks a tackle. Stays in bounds. Touchdown. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions.
It's a beautiful trophy, and I can't think of a better conclusion to the 100th season of the NFL than receiving this trophy.
Please acknowledge, down in the middle of that field, the Hall of Fame coach that led us to a world championship, Andy Reid. And let me just fill in for him for a second by saying, how about those Chiefs? For 50 years, above this stadium, a flag flew of the Super Bowl IV champions, an incredible team in its own right. But today, we get to experience history. We add the Super Bowl 54 flag to fly above this stadium as we get ready to run it back. This flag represents more than a win. It represents the incredible perseverance, the incredible teamwork, the incredible focus of this Kansas City Chiefs football team. And now, if you could put your attention toward that part of the stadium, we celebrate the fight for greatness, a representation of greatness, and to raise the flag of Super Bowl 54, Chiefs Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt and Lamar Hunt Jr. raise the flag of a champion. Ladies and gentlemen, tell your children, your children's children, have their children. the incredible story of this Kansas City Chiefs franchise. A team that won a championship, and now this team on the field gets ready to run it back. Give one more cheer to this Kansas City Chiefs football team of 2020 as we move forward in the future. We thank you for joining us for this historic moment. And when exiting, please take your time and wait for the aisles to clear in order to avoid congestion around the seating area and in the concourses. Also, please make sure to practice social distancing and keep your mask on as you exit. Thank you for doing your part to protect our team, our kingdom, and we look forward to seeing you back at Arrowhead, and we look forward to September the 10th when your Kansas City Chiefs get ready to run it back against the Houston Texans. Let's do this, kingdom. How about those Chiefs?